Want to instantly close the gap between you and your opponent and then absolutely destroy them in Mace PvP? Well, this one pro trick allows you to instantly get to your opponent and even save yourself from dying. So the way to actually perform the pearl grapple technique is that you need to force grapple, because obviously you're gonna have a bot. But if a friend agrees with you to do it and help you, that's perfectly fine. But for today, we're gonna be using this bot. So you need to force grapple the bot up using one of your wind charges. And after pearl, and as soon as your pearl lands on his hitboxes, you mace. Doesn't really matter if it's breach mace or wind burst mace. All it does is that the breach mace, it would deal more damage, but with the wind burst mace, of course, you can swap to your elytra and then keep on mace cycling them. There is also a few other ways on how you can use the pearl grapple technique. And if your opponent is on the ground instead of the air, you can actually wind charge up and pearl on, I would say, like in front of their head. And after that, mace them, of course. Again, doesn't matter, breach or density mace, still does quite the same amount of damage. But this is really useful in situations as in, if your opponent is low and he's trying to get away from you, you're really not gonna wait for the time for you to, oh, I messed up. You're really not gonna wait for the time for you to drop down, and he's already gonna be healed by then, right? So then you're gonna do that, and then they would pretty much be dead by then. Another way that you can use the pearl grappling is to actually stun slam with it, as shown in my previous tutorial. And I'm not going to teach you guys how to stun slam here, as I already made another tutorial for it. And the way these three mechanics are extremely useful and mandatory in Mace PvP is that for the third one that I showed you and the previous one, if your opponent is low, right, and he's healing, you can just pearl down and stun slam him. But really, it doesn't really do that much damage. But you can always elytra chain just like that. So that's not really a problem unless you use a breach mace, but after that you can just breach swap them. There are really common mistakes that people tend to make, actually really often, surprisingly, and one of them is that people aim their pearl way too high, and then when you do that, this just happens. The player falls under it and you just get teleported elsewhere, and your opponent. Also, switching to your mace too late can also be a problem. So see, I switched to it on time, but just to like demonstrate. See, we would have just fallen to the ground and I would have just hit him like this. So it would have just not done any damage whatsoever. And that was the three main ways of how you can pearl grapple in Mace PvP. If you do want to learn how to stun slam and combine it with pearl grappling, please manage to watch the other tutorial and you'll get everything much more easily and much more quicker.